Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's Board of Appeals here. Act as advisors to this board. To my left is Paul Hennings, counsel to the board. To his left is David Flynn, assistant planning director. To his left is Tom O'Brien, a planner in the planning department. To his left is John Bongino, town building director. Now let me tell you why you're here tonight. New York State statute requires that any town that adopts zoning must also have a Board of Appeals to act as a relief valve so that those persons agreed by strict application of the zoning ordinance can seek relief without the expense of going to court. Town board can give Board of Appeals additional powers, such as special exception approvals, site plan approvals, etc. In Smithtown, the town board has given this board authority regarding certificate of existing use and some special exception uses. The most common kind of application before the board are area variances. Area variants deal with dimensions such as lot area, frontage, height, setback, and parking spaces. New York State statute mandates that the board must consider the following 5 criteria in area variances. When you come to the podium to present your application, you need to address these 5 areas. They're posted here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created. Number 2, whether the applicant has other feasible alternatives. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. Number 4, whether an adverse impact on the environment will be created. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. The statute requires the board to balance the interest of the applicant and those of the neighborhood or community. This statute further requires that the board shall grant the minimum variance it shall deem necessary and adequate, and at the same time preserve and protect the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. The board has the power to impose reasonable conditions for granting variances. Special exception applications are different than area variances. When we have a special exception application, I will explain the difference. Regarding procedure, cases will be called in order that they are advertised. When your case is called, please come forward, submit your affidavits and mailing receipts to Mr. O'Brien, and you will be sworn in at the podium. And then you will be given the opportunity to explain to the board why you need the variance. After the applicant is done speaking, all interested parties will be given one opportunity and only one opportunity to be heard. So please, organize your thoughts. Keep your remarks factual that are related to the case. Then I will ask the applicant to come back to the podium to answer your concerns. The board will then close the case and reserve decision. After all the hearings are closed, the board will review the cases and decide some of them. Others will be reviewed at a later date. There are 3 ways to find out the results of the case. 1, you can wait till after the public hearing, but there's no guarantee that the board will act on your case tonight. Number 2, you can call the planning department tomorrow afternoon. And 3, applicants can wait and be notified by mail. We do have some adjournments, so let me tell you what the adjournments are. Case 16825, William Berman. Anyone here for that case? Okay, that is adjourned to January 8th. Case 16829-2224 Willis LLC has been dismissed. Anyone in there after that? And case 16781, 2J's Inc., that has been withdrawn. Was there anyone here for that one? Okay, that case has been withdrawn. First case tonight, case 16820, Richard Dittmar, 11 Jefferson Street, Wisconsin. Location, east side of Jefferson Street. Yeah, come on up. South of Smithtown Boulevard, Wisconsin, property zone R10. Variance to reduce minimum side yard setback from 12 feet to 5 and total side yards from 28 feet to 21 for an existing deck. Reduce the minimum distance in any lot line from 6 to 0 for an existing pool deck. Reduce the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 33 existing for an existing pergola.
Good evening.
May I have your name, please,
Richard Joseph Ditmore,
and your address?
11 Jefferson Street, Wisconsin, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're requesting a reduction in side yard and rear yard setbacks for a deck that surrounds our pool. It's been there since 1987. I haven't had any complaints from any neighbors, hasn't created any impact that I know of to any of my neighbors' property. And it was there just basically for accessibility in and out of the pool for the children.
It is very close, and your neighbor doesn't have a problem with this?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Planning?
Nothing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Gentlemen? What's the height of this deck? We
20
do
inches?
20 inches?
20 inches, ma'am.
Okay. You know we do visit the site?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Israeli moved in second. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16821, Richard O'Connor, 1 Highgate Drive, Smithtown. Location: northeast corner of Highgate Drive and Inglewood Court, Smithtown. Property zone R21. Special exception to permit temporary living quarters for a parent an 870 square foot 2-story garage conversion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special exception. It is not a variance. If he meets all the standards for the special exception, this board has to approve it since it's a permitted use.
Yes,
Okay.
my name is Richard O'Connor, 1 Highgate Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Okay, raise
And
your
I-
right hand.
Oh,
Do
sorry.
you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, ma'am.
I don't think
I'm just looking for approval for a special exception for living quarters for my mother.
okay. Mr. Bryan, do you want to, or does Mr. Flynn, do you want to go over the standards? Or what standards, they meet them all?
Madam Chair, the Planning Department prepared a planning advisory report, and we came to the conclusion that it meets all of the standards. If you want, we could go over them one at a time, but
That's fine, if they meet them, fine. You realize that you met all the standards then?
Yes, I got a copy of that this
Okay.
morning.
Good. Are there any other questions,
thank you.
gentlemen?
No.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Israeli moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16822, David Fielding, 110 Twin Oaks Drive, Kings Park. Location: north side of Twin Oaks Drive, east of Core Road, Kings Park. Property zone R10. Request variance to permit environmentally sensitive land to be altered. Slopes in excess of 15%. Permit structures within 10 feet of any slope higher than 5 feet and having a slope greater than 15%. Reduce minimum setback from property line from 3 feet to 0 for 4 retaining walls. May I have your name, please?
David Failing,
And your address, David.
110 Twin Oaks Drive, Kings Park, New York.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you like the gentleman to speak for you? Yes.
We
Yes.
still don't have the affidavits.
Oh, do you have the certified mail in there?
The posting. I'm looking at it, and sun is there, I don't.
No, I know that.
Problem is, right here. I'm gonna send them to fill it out. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I have the affidavit of posting here. We put the sign up.
Well, first of all, let me have your name, please.
Paul Como,
Spell your last name
C-O-M-O,
and your address.
317 Lockville Road, East Northport.
Okay, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, now you have the affidavit. It's not notarized?
It's not notarized. My son put the sign up, and it's not notarized.
You need 2 affidavits. Affidavit, right? Compliance. Where is the other affidavit?
God in heaven.
I don't see anyone here. I don't see any attorneys here yet. And I don't want him to wait until let's see if he has.
Wonderful.
Do we have a notary in the group?
Not gonna have a compliance.
Do you see anybody that's a notary?
Want me to call my sister-in-law? She's a notary. She lives right over in,
I'm okay with that.
she's in Lake Grove. Let's see if she can come here.
Paul, what do you want me to do? All right. Okay, let me hear the case. You're gonna, we have extra affidavits. You're gonna have to fill it out. And the gentleman here in the back that's walking over there, he's gonna notarize everything for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, okay, so we have a retaining situation on a swimming pool. Thank you.
Gotta tell me a little bit more.
The setbacks, as far as the slope conditions, we have the elevations that, as far as the pool is, we have from 15 feet, we have 9.7, 6.9, and 3.5. So it has a 17.7 slope. There are three slopes. There's a 5.7 and a 9.4 from the top of the grade to the pool. Have you seen the pictures of the pool?
We have.
I mean, so basically, we have the boulders that are holding back the soil with pipes that contain the groundwater, and there are fiber that holds back the soil going into a dry well. And everything is piped into the dry well, so there is no way for any of the drainage conditions to create a problem on the slope with the way we had built the retaining wall. So basically, as far as the pool is concerned, there isn't any situations where you're going to have any problems with the elevations becoming a problem to the pool. I apologize, I'm a little nervous, so.
That's all right. Dave, does engineering have to look at these retaining walls?
If the board approves this, yes.
Okay.
So basically, we're trying to comply where we have built a retaining, before, the situation before was a rotted railroad tie wall. It was falling apart, it was not doing any justice to the elevations and the slope. So it was a situation where, when we had to put the pool in, that we put these boulders in to hold back the soil.
You realize, as Mr. Flynn just said, the engineering department is going to have to look at these retaining walls if we, if
Well, we
this
have
approves.
architectural plans from the architect, and,
But he's not an engineer.
but the grades are not that steep. It's not like it's a steep slope.
All right. Planning, do you have any other questions?
No questions, but just some thoughts for the board. Ordinarily, I think it's important to adhere to the zoning ordinance with respect to steep slopes, but I don't think it's an issue here for about 5 reasons. One is that generally the area is not that steep, so if the slope is greater than 15%, it's just barely. Second reason is I believe before construction, the area was probably less steep than 15%, before the homes were built. I played in these woods when I was a kid, and I don't remember any steep slopes in this part of the property. On alternating Saturdays, Tony probably played in the same woods, so you might ask him. But the third reason is that if there were any kind of an erosion problem, it wouldn't affect a neighbor because the downhill side is toward the property owner's house. And then another reason is not only is the slope not very steep and probably not natural, it's not very big. If you look at the grade at the back of the property, is the same as the grade at the top of the wall. So, I mean, it seems like it's a 6-foot-high slope approximately, if that. And then lastly is it's not near a particularly sensitive area like a wetland or a pond or a stream. So I don't think that there's a problem in granting the variances regarding the steep slope. I'm led to believe that you have newer plans than we have with respect to the retaining wall being next to the neighbor,
Yes.
too close to the side. So I believe the revised plans would not create any kind of an undesirable precedent.
This is from September 28th. Is that the revised plan? Okay.
I'd like to point out I was only allowed to play there during the week.
Not the weekend. Okay. You need to fill everything out,
Yes.
okay? After you fill everything out, get it notarized by the gentleman in the back, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
It's regularly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. You're welcome. Next case is case 16823, Hugh Schneider, Carl and Shirley. 49 Marvin Drive, Kings Park. Location, north side of Marvin Drive, west of 8th Avenue, Kings Park. Property zone R10. Request variance to reduce minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 35 for an existing 122 square foot porch.
Hi,
Let me have your name
Shirley Hugh Schneider,
and your address.
49 Marvin Drive, Kings Park.
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I'm sorry, what?
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
Yes, please.
Sure. I would like you to have your name and spell your last name, please.
Sure, it's Robert Miller, Miller.
Okay, and your
7
address?
7 Norton Drive in Smithtown.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Robert Miller. I'm the architect representing Mrs. Hugh Schneider of 49 Marvin Drive in Kings Park. As Mrs. Hugh Schneider mentioned, her house, actually, as she didn't mention, but her house had sustained a large amount of damage from a fire back in March of this year. And upon filing the repair drawings with the building department, we were notified that the existing covered front porch did not have a permit. The front porch is located on the south side of the house. It is it is 21.9 feet wide, 5.6 feet deep, and 122 square feet in size. The porch encroaches into the required front yard setback of 40 feet by about 4 foot 2 inches, leaving a remaining front yard setback of 35 feet. This porch allows for more of a well-balanced and aesthetically pleasing exterior for Mrs. Hugh Schneider and her neighbors. Currently, the house has been about 90% reconstructed, and it's in my professional opinion that this is not a substantial variance, and that there will be no and are no negative impacts to the community or her neighbors, as it is a very common design element on homes these days. We thank you for your time.
Thank you. Planning?
I would like to state for the record that I think that this would not have a significant effect on the town. It's really de minimis. It's only a porch. The porch doesn't even cover half the front of the house. It's open, and it's only a 5-foot reduction.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Is it regularly moved in second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Case 16825 has been adjourned to January 8th. I'm sorry. No, well, let me go to one case, then the next up. Case 16824, 58 Kings Arthur Court, LLC, St. James. Anybody? No one? All right, you know what? I'll go back, I'll go to then I'll come back to it. Case 16825 has been adjourned to January 8th. Let me go to case 16826, George Chauvin, 7 Peppermint Road, Comac, location, southeast corner of Candy Lane and Peppermint Road, Comac, property zone R21. Request variance, reduce fence setback, Candy Lane, from 20 feet to 10 for an existing 6-foot fence. This is, they did measure, gentlemen, they did measure from the, may I have your name, please?
George Shovelin.
All right, put the mic down a little.
Okay. And I reside at 7 Peppermint Road.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You want to tell us why you're here, please?
I'm here for a variance for a fence setback, an existing fence setback on my property. The setback is noted to be reduced from 20 feet to 10 feet. There was an existing fence. It was replaced with a new fence that was actually moved further away from the property, inside of my property line. And I'm just asking for a variance because of the existing fence, which was, when I first bought the house, it appeared it was never permitted for being that close on the Candy Lane side. So I replaced the fence. I actually moved the fence 6 inches inside because I had installed a pool. And the other fence was actually falling apart. I moved it 6 inches closer in. And then when I went to file for my pool, got the pool approved, then they noted on an inspection that the existing fence had never had a variance for the 10-foot setback. And the existing fence was there. I've been in the house for 16 years, and the existing fence was there prior to my moving in.
Planning?
You are concerned about the fences. Until recently, the requirement for fence setback was the same as the home. The town board liberalized the setback requirement. It would seem that to undermine that in the aggregate would have a negative effect on the visual character of the town, and that in turn would have an effect on property values and the tax base.
Is there anything in that area that is causing you to have it that close to the road?
There was nothing there. The only thing was that I had maintained the fence exactly the spot that it was originally.
Okay, it looks
There was
like
a fence there that, when I bought the property in 1990, was it 95 or 96, that the fence was there 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, when I got the pool, and I had now moved my fence 1 foot further away from the road, behind the existing fence. So it was further away from the road.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. I thought that I was in compliance because there was an existing fence when I bought the property. And I know that when I bought the property previously, they had told me that I had to move a shed. When they came out to do a survey, they told me I had to move a shed off the property line, which I did, but the existing fence was never noted as a hindrance in any manner.
And it was a 6-foot fence as well?
Yes, it was. It's a 6-foot picket fence.
Anything else, gentlemen?
No question.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain the motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Ready, moved, and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next case is case 16827, Michael Kaufman, 10 Somerset Drive, Smithtown. Location, south side of Somerset Drive, east of St. John Lynn's Road, Smithtown, property zone R43. Request variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 60 feet to 58 and reduce the minimum side yard setback from 24 feet to 19 for a proposed 280 square foot covered deck and proposed 895 square foot second floor addition. And your name, please?
Michael Kaufman,
And your address, please.
10 Somerset Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you want to tell us why you're here, please?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, thank you for hearing my application for area variance this evening. As originally built in 1954, the house lies 2 feet within the existing front yard setbacks and 5 feet within the existing side yard setbacks. And accordingly, we're requesting a reduction in the minimum front yard setback from 60 to 58 feet, and from, on the side yard, from 24 feet to 19 feet. With regard to considerations for an area variance, the impact on adjacent properties, we believe that the proposed work will improve the aesthetics of the house and bring it more into character with the existing neighborhood homes without reducing the front or side yard setbacks beyond their existing nonconformity. We have spoken with our immediate neighbors, and we have their support in this matter. In fact, our most closely impacted neighbors have come tonight in support, and we thank you for that. Number two, the request is not substantial because less than 6% of the proposed work will occur in the area of existing nonconformity, and none of the work will impose further into the front or side yard setbacks. The square footage impact at ground level is minimized through the proposed use of a covered deck to support the second floor addition, and all additional square footage is gained over the existing footprint of the current structure. Number three, the benefit cannot be achieved by any alternative because as it exists today, our home is non-compliant with the front and side yard setbacks, and any addition or renovation would require a variance. Our proposed renovation and addition has been planned to minimize any potential impact with less than 6% of the proposed work to occur in the area of existing nonconformity. Number four, the variance, we believe, would not cause an adverse effect on the environment as we are minimizing the ground level impact using a covered deck to support the second floor addition with the additional square footage being gained over the current existing structure. The only land area to be disturbed for this project lies in the footprint of the proposed covered deck and is currently a landscaped maintained area of our yard. And finally, the difficulty was not self-created. As the house was built in 1954, it stands non-conforming. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Gentlemen, planning?
Just a few comments. This would not have an adverse effect on the town, in my opinion. What you might not realize here is that this property used to be zoned half acre, and that's why it has the smaller front yard setback and side yard setback. The town upzoned it in the late 1980s, so any hardship was really created by the town in that the house was already there. So if someone wanted to build a second story, to have to set it in an extra 5 feet would be difficult, I guess. And then second from that is the circumstances are unique. If you look at the property, the most impacted property is 58 feet at its closest, and that's at a point.
Okay.
So the last thing is that this is in the town's local waterfront area. It's not required to be reviewed by the town board because there are no environmentally sensitive lands variances and no floor area ratio variances and so on and so forth. However, this would be consistent with the LWRP. It would not have an impact on the visual quality, on the quality of water, access to the water, and so on and so forth.
Do we need an LWR?
No, you don't.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No question.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Really moves.
Thank you very much.
Second, thank you. Gentleman in the back, please. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Next case is case 16828, Finish Line Technologies, Inc., 50 Wireless Boulevard, Hauppauge. Location, Northeast Corner, Wireless Boulevard and Moreland Road, Hauppauge Property Zoned LI. Request variance to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 24.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. John Breslin, an attorney with offices at 44 Elm Street, Huntington, representing the applicant, Finish Line Technologies.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Oh, he is attorney. Okay.
Good evening. Nice to see you again. Hope everyone had an enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend. Finish Line Technologies recently acquired this property at the corner of Moreland and Wireless. It is a very large industrial building, if you're not familiar with it. It was formerly occupied by Four Paws. They're seeking to put their sign on the building. I don't know if you got the cut sheets. My office received a call from planning with respect to the colors and a concern about the colors. I do have some additional cut sheets that show the colors. It's basically black, white, and red.
Okay, I'll take those, thank you. Thank you. Want to look at these, gentlemen?
It's a very simple sign, as you can see from that. The only lighting is the lighting that's on the building. That would be, there's a light below it and a light above it. It's a very large building wall. It's 39 feet tall, so there'll still be roughly 15 feet above this top of the sign, even the boxed area of the sign. If you're familiar with the building, or if you look at the photo of the building, there really is no other place to locate the sign on the building that would be in conformity with it, where it would be visible. That's the flat part of the building that is located. If you put it below, you can see the other parts of the building. There is no place to put it where it would be visible. I think it's clearly evident, because of the size of the building, that this sign fits very nicely with it. It's certainly not going to have any adverse impact on the surrounding industrial uses in this area. The scope and size of the sign is both in keeping with the ordinance as well as with the size of the building. I think it's tastefully done. This business moved from Bayshore. I think it's a nice new business for the town of Smithtown with over 40 employees, and I think that the board hopefully will look favorably upon the application so that we can move along in the process. Be happy to answer any questions. The principal of the company is here. In fact, he has his jacket on with the logo, which matches the sign, if anyone wants to see that as well.
Okay, thank you. Planning?
Sure.
What does Finish Line Technologies do?
Finish Line Technologies makes lubricants. They started primarily making bicycle oils. That was their primary business. And they've grown into making additional lubricants, but their primary focus of their business is developing different types of bicycle lubricants on an international basis. It's grown from essentially almost like a basement type business to now the one that occupies almost a 60,000 square foot industrial building. A very significant success story.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't believe so. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
It's really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Case 16829 has been dismissed. Next case is case 16830, Mark and Kristen Belmonte, 23 Helene Drive, Kings Park. Location, north side of Helene Drive, west of 5th Avenue, Kings Park. Property zone R10. Request variance, reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 49 for an existing 408 square foot screened-in porch. Decrease the minimum distance from any lot line from 6 feet to 1 for an existing 80 square foot shed. May I have your name, please?
Mark Belmonte.
Mark, you know what? Lift that up, or yeah, you can take it out. It may be easier for you. And your address.
23 Highland Drive, Kings Park, New York.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Tonight I'm here for an application for a variance to reduce the rear yard by 1 foot for an existing screened-in porch, and also to reduce the area from the side fence for an existing shed from 6 feet to 1 feet. The structures were existing prior to me buying to the house. I believe they add value to the house. The porch, we enjoy it during the summer. The shed is just more a storage space. We just hope to keep the structures where they are.
Planning? Gentlemen?
No. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Gravely moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let me go back. I'm just going to go back for a minute. Did anyone come in for case 16824, 58 Kings Arthur Court, LLC? Okay. Next case is case 16831, Walter Conway and Joanne Myers, 3 Kings Arthur Court, St. James. Location, east side of Kings Arthur Court, west of Hillside Avenue, St. James. Property zone R21. Request special exception to permit a temporary living quarters for family members. Variance of a special exception standard to increase the temporary living quarters from 1,000 square foot to 1,308 square feet. Reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 4 for an existing pond. Reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 0 for an existing 6-foot fence. Reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 44 for an existing 83 square foot covered porch. Reduce the rear yard setback from 75 feet to 65 feet for an existing 196 square foot deck. Reduce the rear yard setback from 75 feet to 54 feet for an existing 328 square foot first floor addition. And your name, please?
Joanne Myers,
And your address, Joanne.
3 King Arthur's Court, St. James.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would you like this gentleman to speak for you?
I would.
Okay. May I have your name, please?
Douglas Hines, Hynes, Design Development Group, Stony Brook, New York.
Okay. You need his last name? No, he knows. Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board and the staff. I appear here tonight on behalf of Walter Conway and Joanne Myers, the owners of the property, in support of their request for a special exception for temporary living quarters for family members. We have a mom, a dad, a daughter, and a son-in-law, and some children involved, and various variance relief that we are seeking. The request seems more imposing in the call of the meeting than in actuality. I'd like to hand up a series of photographs, aerial and street scenes, demonstrating that the property is a modest one-story ranch, well situated on the property, on a curvilinear road, which in effect is a double front yard, and is beautifully set back on that property. All the variance relief, with the exception of the front yard, is located in the back of the property.
This goes to the other, this goes to the other case too.
As such, and I'm sure the board is familiar with this, the streetscape as well. I know this board is hands-on and goes and checks the properties. It's almost a park-like setting, and I would respectfully submit that there is no unreasonable impact on the neighborhood, nothing substantial. Most of the arrangements are not readily achievable to get the same benefit in any other way, no environmental impacts. And although these conditions are self-created, we would respectfully submit that that alone should not be reason enough to deny them. The double front yard creates our principal hardship. It's also the saving grace, as I've described. The increase in the size of the second unit in this proposed temporary living arrangement from the 1,000 permitted to the 1,308 square feet proposed results from a design hardship that we do indeed have. I'd like to hand up 3 sets of drawings and I would direct the board's attention to the upper right-hand corner of the drawings. The first page of the two drawing set shows how we can achieve a conforming residence at 833 square feet in the lower left-hand corner of the home, and the second page shows the larger 1,308 square foot proposal, and I'll explain why that hardship is present.
Why don't you let them share, and then we can all look ahead. We can all look at this. I've seen it. You saw it too, right?
The members of the board will readily observe that there's a natural break in this house from top to bottom, which is also north to south in this condition. By expanding the permitted space from 1,000 to 1,308 square feet, we take advantage of that natural break. Otherwise, you see we've got an attenuated dominant unit to the north side, long distances to travel, not an ideal living situation, and actually we create a situation where the northern or dominant unit would have two fireplaces, two dens, and it was just impractical. The expansion by 308 square feet, we believe, is not substantial. It's in the rear yard, technically, as you face the front of the house, what I consider the front of the house on the south side. It is in the right, what I would call side yard. It's not readily noticeable. So for those reasons, we would submit that the temporary living arrangements should be the second sheet, the 308 square feet, rather than the 1,000 square feet. As to the side yard relief for the fish pond, it's a modest request. The fish pond obviously is at ground level, takes advantage of shade trees in that area. The front yard request to reduce the setback for the fence from 50 feet to 0 feet is indeed substantial, and we could not make out a complete case for that relief. We would respectfully request that we be permitted to move that fence back to a distance of 25 feet from the front yard line. There's another 5 feet of lawn before the paved area, which is not our property, so the effective setback would be 30 feet in that situation, but we defer to the judgment of the board on that request. The front yard setback from 50 feet to 44 feet for the 83 square foot covered entryway is a modest request. The entryway is beautifully designed. It has not a substantial impact in the neighborhood, and as is the case in the prior variance, it's actually 5 feet further back from the paved roadway, so the effective setback is, in appearance at least, 49 feet rather than the 44 we're requesting. I've already addressed the rear yard relief for the 196, excuse me, I have not. The rear yard, which is the right side of the house as you're facing the house from the south, 75 feet to 65 feet for a 196 square foot deck. That deck is well screened on its very perimeter by beautiful fruit tree specimens, and well screened also from the neighbor to the east, who is the only one that could even see it. It's low-lying, of course, and therefore not a substantial impact. And finally, the rear yard request for 54 feet in lieu of 75 required for the 328 square foot addition, I have addressed in part. That addition is set back 2.4 feet from the existing front line of the house. It creates a nice look. The overall length of the house on that side is only 66 square feet, which is in keeping with the neighborhood. And the overall impact, as I started with, is far less than what you see in the neighborhood, the two-story homes in the area particularly. And the gross floor area, the coverage of the entire structure as it exists, is less than half of the permitted gross floor area. That's our application, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for your patient attention.
Okay. It has come to my attention from planning that part of that fence, that 6-foot fence, wood fence, is on the town right-of-way.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's going to be removed?
We know it's got to go. That fence actually matches the neighboring fence, which was erected without benefit of a variance, presumably without benefit of a permit, and we simply tried to match it. We would like to retain as much of the backyard as we can, since most of our property is in the front, not useful for recreational area as a backyard is, and that's why we proposed bringing that back a full 25 feet from our property line.
Planning?
Just some comments for the board's thoughts. The planning department did an advisory report, and it found that the special exception meets all of the standards except for the ones that Mr. Hines mentioned and that are in the notice. Going through a couple, and the staff recommends approval on everything except for the fence. And I think regarding the fence, I think the applicant's proposal for a compromise makes a lot of sense, especially in consideration that this property is really unusual, almost unique. The property is set, I mean, not the property, the house is set back further from the road than necessary on one side. That reduces the rear yard area. And setting the fence back 25 feet as they propose doesn't hurt them so much because it's a triangular area that they're losing, a very small area. And then the part that they're keeping is obviously larger because it tapers in the opposite direction. The setback for the fish pond is substantial, but it's only a fish pond. Setbacks are usually required by zoning ordinances to protect neighbors' privacy and the concept of light and air. Since a fish pond is below ground or at the water's at ground level, it doesn't impact the loss of open space or privacy. And that's basically it.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, any questions?
No question.
Okay, thank you so much. Just let me tell you that there's no decision tonight. Do you realize that? Okay. Huh? Yeah, I'm going to do that, but I just wanted you to know that I think what the environmental department is looking for the transcript, the minutes of this, before they make a decision. Give us a secret.
That's quite all right. We're in no particular hurry.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on the application? Yes, come up, please. May I have your name and spell your last name?
George Rittman, R-I-T-T-M-A-N, 72 Hillside Avenue, all right, St. James. I am a bordering neighbor.
First, okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
My concern is the fence, because it separates our two properties. It wasn't installed correctly. And what I mean by that is, when the Myers first put up a 4-foot fence, they did the proper thing, putting the finished side towards my property. After which, they had put up a 6-foot fence, all right, with the finished side towards their property, leaving 2 feet, all right, of unfinished fence that's facing my side. So when I saw a variance for this fence, all I really was concerned with, and I don't care about the buildings and everything like that, all right, is just that the fence be installed correctly.
I agree.
May I just ask one question?
Sure.
All right, and this is not directly, related, to the Myers or the situations, but I hear a lot of requests for variances with, properties that they're expanding and, they didn't get a permit to begin with. Well, in this day and age with recessions and, you guys looking for taxes and all, do these things get retroactive to when these things were first built? Because if not, you guys may want to think about doing that. 2 reasons: it gives you revenue, and then secondly, it may stop a lot of these variances being asked.
Well, first of all, we're not the town board. So we don't make those kind of decisions. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Is anyone else? Okay. Excuse me, you cannot talk from the audience. You can come up to the podium. May I have your name, please?
Janine Murphy.
And spell your last name.
M-U-R-P-H-Y.
And your address.
70 Hillside Avenue.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Quick question, might not, you can answer it. The family member dwelling portion, that will never be able to be a rental, correct? Always
Correct.
just family. Got it.
Correct. Okay, next, please. Let me have your name, please.
My name is Kenneth Myers. I live at 3 King Arthur's Court. Behind the Rittmans, our properties are back to back.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. The fence that Mr. Rittman is speaking about is in a wooded area of his property. So there's very little sight line to this fence from within his property.
However, you do not base the fence, the good side, to your property.
Okay,
Okay?
sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
Really moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Is he 58? Okay. Let me go back. All right. You're going to go back to, all right? Okay. Case is 16824, 58 Kings Arthur Court, LLC, 11 Storyland Road, St. James. Location, west of Kings Arthur Court, north of Gordon Gate Street, St. James, or Gate, St. James. Property zone R21. Request variance to increase the maximum paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 66% proposed. And your name, please?
Joseph Mealy, 11 Storyland Road, St. James, New York, 11780.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your position, I guess, on this?
I'm the managing member of the property.
Do you normally have authority? You work for the property?
I am the property.
You are the property?
I own the property.
Good
It's
enough.
owned by an LLC. I'm the LLC.
Okay, that's what we need to know.
That's what
Good.
a managing member is.
Okay. All right. Tell me why you're here now.
I'm here to get a driveway variance from 25% to 66%. I don't think there's any adverse of, I really don't think there's any adverse of anything. I mean, you guys issued a building permit for a two-story house and a two-car garage that's already been permitted and built. So I would assume that this is just a formality of me being here and doing what I'm supposed to do.
Well, let me just tell you, 66% of paving is high. Now, I believe the new code, and they have, if I'm not mistaken, right, they have asked that the paving be only 10 feet wide. Am I correct, Mr. Flynn?
I believe the requirement is still 25% plus the minimum necessary for a circular driveway not wider than, I thought it was 12 feet.
Well, this is not a, this is.
No, it's not a circular driveway.
It's not a
just-
circular driveway. This goes from the road all the way back to the detached garage. And it's 14 feet wide. Am I correct?
So the ordinance on side yards was amended. It shall be increased as necessary to accommodate a driveway not exceeding 10 feet in width to a detached garage.
Right.
So this is what, 14?
This is 14 feet wide.
I'm adverse to whatever you guys recommend. If it has to go down to 10 feet till it gets to the back part where the turnaround is necessary, I'm all for it.
Okay.
I'm not living in the house. I just own the property. I'm building the house, developing it for a client that will be living in the house. This was their choice of setup with the two-car garage in the back. If it seemed to be a problem, I guess building department should have never collected my money and given me a permit for it.
Okay. These are new ordinances that just went into effect.
I understand, ma'am.
That's lenient, a little bit more lenient than the other ones.
I'm only here to play by the rules.
Okay.
And these are the rules.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Well, that will change.
It won't be as substantial.
It won't be as
Yeah, I mean,
substantial, right?
I can't do the math in my head in front of a crowd, but
Okay.
it won't be as substantial.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have
You're
a good
very
night.
welcome.
Sorry I was late.
That's all right. Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Is it ready moved in second? All in favor?
Aye.
I will allow everyone to have one opportunity to speak. All right, and to be heard. And your remarks have to be factual, that are related to the case. All right? It's very important that this hearing is fair and orderly. So I'm going to ask you, please, no calling out, no applauding. I'm going to ask you to be as professional and to cooperate. And I know that that will happen. And I thank you so much. Okay. Then what I'm going to do, when everybody's finished speaking, I'm going to ask the applicant to come back one more time to answer any concerns that the audience has. All right? You know what? Not to waste time. Bring them all, give them all to me. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll read this now. Case 16795, KPE2 LLC. Location, northwest corner of Old Northport Road and Kings Park Road, Kings Park. Property zone LI. Request certificate of existing use for a precast concrete cesspool fabrication facility, concrete manufacturing plant, concrete aggregate processing center, ancillary office use, outdoor storage, materials stockpile yard, truck and heavy equipment maintenance facilities, associated parking, sand screening, recycling broken concrete, rock and concrete crushing, and precast related activities. These are yours. Okay? Pass this over to, you all have one? And how about Dave? Okay? May I have your name, please?
Yes, good evening. John Armentano from the law firm of Farrell Fritz, 1320 Rexcore Plaza, Uniondale, New York. Okay, I'm here today on behalf of KPE2. I have some witnesses here also that will be testifying as to the factual events that took place through the history of the property. I have with me Mark Underberg and George Highline, members of KPE, John Jeswali, a neighboring property owner, Kevin Cahill, a former client of Cabro and the Carlson property owners, as well as Claudio Valenti from Kings Park Ready Mix. As you indicated, I have a booklet here to kind of assist with the presentation, to kind of guide you through the process. It's basically, we'll follow along with what I'm discussing. The property is located on the first exhibit at 110 Old Country Road. The property is composed of several tax lots. The tax lots are District 800, Section 44, Block 2, Lots 9 and 10, and District 800, Section 45, Blocks 4, Lots 30, 28.1, and 29.1. But the parcels that are the subject of this application are Lots 9 and 10, as well as 30, and they're outlined in red in your handout. They're also highlighted as Exhibit 2 in the blue to show you the property that we're dealing with for this application for the certificate of existing use. And as you indicated, there are several uses that have been used on this property, and we are seeking roughly about 12 individual uses for the property. As part of this application, you also have photos of the site as it was in existence. Currently, you have the concrete pads where the precast rings have recently been poured. You have additional photos showing the welding shop on the site, the storage of heavy equipment. You have concrete rubble that was cleaned off of the site as part of a DEC consent order. You also have clean fill, which is part of the operations existing on site and that had taken place on site. And you have another shot of the office that had been used as the main operations when the Carlsons were working at the facility. To take you through the history here, we're looking for a CEU for a use that pre-existed the zoning code. The use here was The use here of concrete manufacturing was not permitted based on a zoning amendment in 1968, but the uses here obviously had gone on quite a bit before then. And you'll see in these exhibits here, exhibits starting with number 5, it shows the property in the 30s, and it's basically an agricultural use to the west and a vacant parcel, which is lots 9 and 10 to the east. But continuing on, you'll notice in 1947, that's when operations appear to be increasing, and this is really a sand and mining operation, gravel screening operation. Really, it's a grading of the slopes, but you're having the mining operation begin on lots 9 and 10, and it is quite extensively undergoing its transformation into what was commonly done at the site. There is a portable screening machine, if you see it in the center of the pictures. That's in 1947. Progressing on into 1964, you see the operation of the precast where the rings are being poured and stored, as well as the concrete batch plant, which is existing on lots 9 and 10. And it's extensive. The operation here is in its full swing, and you see operations also extending onto lot 30, which is the lot to the west. Progressing into 1968, again, continuing the same use. These were produced by the town. I just want to go through them with you. This is 1968, showing continued operation as well as operations expanding towards the north. You'll see in 1972, again, the precast operation is active and expanding to the north and to the west. It's quite extensive, and you also note that the office is now constructed on lots 30, which is the rectangular lot to the west. So you can clearly see the office building there along with everything else that's occurring on site, and that corresponds with the approvals that were granted by the town roughly at that time. You have a 1976 aerial showing additional uses. There appears to be more storage of equipment as well as sand screening to the north, but the operation is clearly still with the precast operation. In 1984, you'll see the continued operation, but it seems to be not as extensive in this area in terms of the amount of rings that are being stored on site, and that could be a function of the day that the pictures were shot or what have you. But that is there is obviously still active concrete manufacturing and precast construction occurring on the site. In 1986, again, you see a similar type of activity. It's just to show the history of the site as we progress. Then we skip to 1994, and you can clearly see this is a very vivid aerial showing the batch plant in the western portion of I'll call it, it's similar to a trapezoid. That the smaller lot does have the concrete batching facility, and you have, again, there seems to be extensive storage of concrete rings on the property, as well as there's heavy equipment which can be seen. There's a parking garage to the north, as well as the welding shop, which is also roughly located on lot 9. Progressing to 2001, this is showing operations still in continuation. They seem to have less rings being stored on the property, but obviously the parking is occurring on site. You see the welding shop, the batch plant is still up and running, and the storage of rings and the concrete pads they are poured on it is also clearly visible. The next two aerials, 2007, that is showing, again, a slowing down of the processing of the concrete rings, but you are seeing sand and gravel being stored and moved, and there seems to be a portable screener in the south center part of the property, which is actively screening soils on the property. And that brings us to a 2010 aerial, which is showing the site in a somewhat slower operation, but there are still precast rings on site. The office is still intact. The batch plant has been removed, but all the other operations are still vivid on this aerial. that was a little quick history of the property. This all stemmed from a 1955 change in zone, which is shown in your Exhibit 17, which was requested. It seems to me there was a reference in this letter from the attorney dated October 27th, 1955. It's in the third paragraph that this was an application to rezone the property from C residential to light industry, or G light industry, to allow for a more desirable location of the precast cesspool facility that the Carlsons were operating in the town, in the village of Kings Park. They're actually operating very close to the train station, and from what I understand anecdotally, it was a better location for this site to be moved to its current location. And the next page of that exhibit is the change of zone application that was granted by the town board on October 9th, 1955, and it is resolution number 449, which is the granting of the change of zone, which is basically to allow for the precast operation to be moved to its current location at 110 Old Northport Road. So that's how this started. You have the next exhibit is Exhibit 18, which is a March 1959 map showing an approval of the site regrading permit for the property, which is roughly the time that the site really starts to become graded and mined, and it's believed to be that the mining was occurring before then, and then the mining was used as part of the production and manufacturing of the concrete, and then that would be then poured into molds to make the precast rings. Turning next to the building department records, this is the building department record card for the property. You'll note that in 1965, the office was approved for an addition, and then at the same time, roughly a few days later, in 1965, a 4,000-gallon gasoline tank and a 3,000-gallon diesel tank was placed on the property and approved in 1966. And then in 1969, there was a permit issued to allow for an addition to the office building, which was a 40 by 30 addition, which was finally CO'd in 1971. And that correlates to your Exhibit 20, which is the actual site plan approval for the expansion of the office. And this has been considered the site plan approval for the precast operation. You'll note on this, it's an as-built survey showing the batch plant, which is to the west of the property. You're noting the office, the parking. You'll also note the storage tank and the fuel facility for the fueling of the vehicles. That is less clearly shown in the second page, but it was just for elaboration. The building department files also for Exhibit 21, there were pictures in the file which seem to correlate to that site plan approval. It is clearly showing the hopper. It is showing a large flatbed truck. There's also the pump island there, so that is correlating to that time when that was permitted and the uses were in operation. The next real activity that is noted for the property was in 1988, the Carlsons sought a change of zone to residential, and that was a condominium complex that was going to be built in this site. And you'll note in the planning department letter recommendation to the town board, although it was denied, there was a reference that the land use at the time, and this is 1988, was that a majority of the subject property is currently used for the sand mining operation and concrete production facility by Cabro Corporation. This site is also used for storage of concrete drainage rings and concrete pipe. So in 1988, operations, as they correlate and as they always were for the uses that were currently on the site. As part of that change of zone, there were photographs taken, which are reproduced in your packet here at Exhibit 23, showing clearly the sand mining operations, the soil screening operations, the batch plant, the concrete rings, the vaults, the storage, the basic heavy industrial use of the property that has always been at this site. You'll next note the next major operation to occur at this site was you'll see at Exhibit 24. In February of 2006, the property was brought in and it was suggested to seek a change of zone. They were looking for a change of zone to residential. There is another staff report which ultimately denied the change of zone to residential, but it does note in the highlighted sections on the second page that the existing business is located on the southern and eastern portions of the site and deals in precast concrete production and includes storage and a welding yard. So there's again, the town is recognizing the uses to have been on the site, as I have already discussed. To further elaborate the point, and not to beat a dead horse, but you have pictures of the change of zone application, which clearly show the operations in 2002 as occurring with the additional, it appears to be mulching of certain plant materials on the property, as well as the standard screening of sand and gravel, as well as neighboring uses. The batch plan is still up in 2002, indicating that concrete manufacturing was occurring in 2002, along with the precast operations. To take another perspective, the town tax records, that's your Exhibit 26, is indicating that in 1967, the property was assessed with buildings. They were assessed at $1,000 back then, but it's clearly indicating the former owners of the property were the Carlsons, and that there was obviously a building on the property in 1967, which correlates to the historical use on the property and probably predates the expansion that occurred in 1968. Following that, we have affidavits that were obtained by the purchasers, and I want to make a distinction. We represent the new owners of the property. They purchased the property in June of 2011, and on the date of sale, they did receive affidavits from the Carlson family indicating the prior uses on the site, and they are Exhibit 27. The first one is from Cliff Carlson, and he is indicating in his affidavit that the lots 9, 10, and 30, which we are seeking our CEU relief for, were purchased by, I believe it was their mother, Erna Carlson, in 1954 and 1964, and that during the time that she owned the premises, they had been and continually used as a concrete manufacturing processing center, along with a trucking facility, aggregate processing, and outdoor storage. And aggregate processing is basically using the materials, crushing the concrete to make what you need, having the sand to make the concrete. So that's what aggregate processing means. So that was occurring throughout and up until the sale in 2011. You have an additional affidavit from Carl Carlson, who is still of Kings Park, indicating that the same lots 9 and 10 and lot 30, that when he operated Carborough Industries from 1972 to the date of the signing of this affidavit, which was June 21st of 2011, that Carborough Industries was and continually used the premises as a concrete manufacturing processing center, along with trucking facilities, aggregate processing, and outdoor storage. So those are the former property owners testifying as to what they used the property for, and that was the reliance that the new owners purchased this property for. There's an additional affidavit by a man by the name of David Barrows, who could not make the meeting tonight, who was a employee of 2 of Long Island's septic system and drainage companies, who would routinely show up to the site to pick up materials for use in his employer's operation, which was drainage, septic systems. In his affidavit, which I'll let you can read at your leisure, but it does indicate that on the premises that we are seeking relief for, that when he was there, and this was for a period of 40 years, during his visits to the site, he would note the manufacturing of the concrete, he would see the precast rings on the pads, he would note the occasional screening of sand and gravel, as well as the crushing of concrete. This was sometimes done by a crusher, but more than likely done by heavy machinery, where they would break the concrete of poorly poured rings or concrete that they were recycling back into the system. He also does recall that concrete rubble was mounted in certain portions of the property, so that is consistent with what this type of operation was going through at the time. Your next affidavit is from an Albert Hergert, who was an independent contractor to George Highline, one of the principals of KPE, and he would go to the site at the time. There was a mortgage held on the property by George, and to check on the mortgage interest, they would periodically step out to the site to see what activities were taking place. And although the operations may not have been in their full tilt of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, he did note that site activities were still observed, and that during his visits to the site, which spans the time of 2007 to 2011, he did observe the operation of heavy equipment, such as backhoes and bulldozers, that truck parking was occurring, that precast was stored on site, that there was the incoming and going of trucks, there were deliveries. Mr. Carlson was actively working in his office. He was selling off stock at that time. So you have activities, maybe not consistent with the full operation of precast manufacturing, but you did have activities consistent with an operation that was still there. It had not been abandoned, and it was in continual use up until the purchase by my clients. So that is that affidavit. The next exhibit, which is the last exhibit, is of interest in relation to this property. It does relate to a property in St. James, which has gone through a similar course of events here. I'm not sure where they have ended up, but there was a note in the file from actually a letter from the building department indicating, and it's highlighted, it is the last paragraph, that as a result of zoning board approvals of former uses in the G industry, the following uses would be permitted, and it is a ready-mix concrete plant with batching and dispatching of trucks, the servicing of fleet vehicles kept on the site, warehousing, storing, outdoor stockpiling of construction materials and equipment, and they would be permitted. So that's a very recent letter. It's 2004, dealing with a similar issue. It is also part of a CEU application, and it is the town building department's opinion that the uses of the G2, which makes sense because that use was, I believe, what was allowed back in those days, that those uses could continue through, and that is also based on decisions rendered by this board at much earlier dates. You have decisions granted in 1961, and I believe a few years after that, which give the backup for that final statement that that use is permitted. At this point, I also have a few witnesses that will be testifying as to historical events that, as they recall them on the property, I'll call them up in order, and I guess I'll just stand to the side. They will be sworn in and speak at the podium.
Right, and make sure that stenographer, they spell their last name and everything.
Certainly.
Okay?
Sure.
I appreciate it. We need to take a few minutes. All right. Yeah. We take a 5-minute break.
Outdoor fireplace. I posed the application. I have pictures to submit to the board which show the proximity that the chimney has to my property. The survey submitted with the application for the variance, I don't believe is drawn to scale, as you mentioned, the shed, which I have to say that I did measure because I was concerned also. I came back to take care of my mother. My mother and father have lived in the house, so if there hadn't been a permit, that could have very well been. I'm not aware of that. I wasn't in charge of that at the time. But I would like to submit the pictures that I've taken with regard to how close the shed is. And my understanding is that the zoning, it should be 2 feet from the property line, and it is. I did measure that, but I'd like to submit my...
What's 2 feet? Your shed?
Yes.
But is it in the rear yard or the side yard?
Side yard.
Not, it is in the rear? Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean, in the rear of the house, yes.
Yeah, all right. You can't speak here. And the other thing is, let me just, you have to go back to the...
I'm here.
Okay.
So...
All right, I'm going to give you these pictures back, and I'll tell you why, what you have to do, if you want us to look at these. First of all, you need to write down the case, I can write down the case number. But you
Okay.
have to tell me who took the pictures, and when you have to write it down.
Okay.
Who took the pictures and when you took the pictures.
Okay.
So, and the address of the,
Okay. I'm
just in
sorry.
case. you
Yeah,
know.
I didn't know the protocol of
That's all
how
right.
you do this
Yeah.
because...
Especially one that goes into the file, that's all right, so I'll give you one back. So,
Thank you.
when you do that, then that one will go into the file, so we have it. All right? I appreciate it. Okay.
I just wanted to say that I became alarmed when I saw how close it was and how tall it was because I just didn't think that they would allow something that close to a property line. And it really only took me 5 minutes to figure out that it was not in compliance. And I think that before they built it, they could have easily done what I did and just adjusted where it was. I'm concerned about not being able to remove my family members, as I say, who are disabled. My sister has mental retardation. My mother has dementia. She can no longer walk by herself. There's no way I could get them out of the house in time. And I understand that they're saying that it should be safe and that it
Well,
was...
it has to meet all the building codes.
I understand. And I went to the fire department first. That was where I first went, because I couldn't believe that, I mean, it was like, be aware that you might have to come to this location. And they said to go to the building department. So that's where I've been.
All right.
And I just would really like, I just think that they needed to check this out before they built something
Thank
that
you.
has that potential. I'm sorry? Correct, but, I mean, the shed has things like a lawnmower with gasoline in it. I just think that, you know, on a dry day, it would be easy for an ember to come out of that, and, you know, they're basically placing the responsibility on you when they should have taken the responsibility to make sure that it was at least far enough away to meet the building zoning code.
Okay.
What's
Thank
the
you.
setback
Okay.
requirement for a shed?
Normally, it's 6 feet, but if it's less than 10 feet high now, right?
Yes.
Didn't they change it to 10 feet high?
I have that paper that I
And
brought
less
with me.
than 150 square feet, I
Yes.
think?
Correct,
Then it can be 2 feet.
Okay,
and it is.
okay. Yeah, that's what the new code says. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, can I just say one other thing? I'm sorry. I do want to mention that they did already start a fire in there. There's a picture in there.
Okay.
And I don't think that they were given the permission to use that fireplace, and it had been used. So I think there's an issue of responsibility here as well that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, wait a minute. Is there anyone else? Okay, go ahead, Sharon.
In my client's defense, the shed is quite a distance from the house, so I don't think if anything should transpire as far as an ember escaping, I don't think that it would endanger anybody that's living in the house.
Okay, we understand that. Okay, thank you. All right? All right, anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second?
Gravely moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case is case 16775, Francisco Zizzo, 1 Dilmont Drive, Smithtown location, northeast corner of Meadow Road and Dilmont Drive, Smithtown, property zone R21. Request variance to reduce the front yard on Dilmont Drive from 50 feet, 20 feet existing, to 17 for an existing 36 square foot portico.
Hi,
Hi, your name, please,
Francesco Zizzo,
and your address, Francisco.
1 Dilmont Drive, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Hi, I'm here for a variance today to reduce the front yard of Dilmont from 50 feet to 17 feet existing 20 for existing porticos, that is 36 square feet. Before I purchased the house, this was pre-existing, this portico, and I guess I was left with the responsibility to go for the variance. I don't see any impact to the environment or the neighborhood. It actually is aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood. And basically, that's all I know.
Okay. Okay. Planning?
Comments, thank you.
Gentlemen?
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Rennie moves second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next case, 167812J's Inc. has been withdrawn. Okay. All right. Probably going to be a little bit long, all right? Are you okay? Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to read the next case, which is KPE2. All right? Okay. But just let me say, this is the way the procedure is going to go. All right, please. The applicant will present their case. And then